Would you like to play Sagat and take him all the way to master rank and above, or maybe you are already playing the character but feel a little uncomfortable with how different he is in comparison to older iterations of the character and his legacy? Then look no further, because in this video I'm gonna explain to you how to play Sagat in Street Fighter 6, and I'm gonna explain his neutral game plan, his best buttons and pokes in the mid-range, also his best up-close pressure tools and how to overwhelm your opponents when they are on defense, and at the end of the video I'm even gonna give you a full combo guide so you can be ready to play the character right away. But before we start, if you enjoy fighting game content, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel so you don't lose in any future content. And now let's get into the guide. Okay, so the first thing that you gotta understand about Sagat in SF6 is that even though he still has decent fireballs, good anti-airs and all of those resources that basically give him an identity as a legacy character and a classic zoner, he's much more than that in this game. He is a much more versatile character and has many different tools that allow him to play multiple game plans at the same time. He's not really in a cage as a zoner anymore, and he has basically what I will call a three-way neutral game plan that I'm gonna explain to you. And the first part of that is of course the zoner part. Like, you still have to use fireballs, you still have to play around the anti-airs, the DPs, and basically punish people for not respecting your full screen arsenal to zone them out. But the thing is, a lot of Sagat's fireballs are really slow, and they take a ton of frames to cover the screen and to even come out. And there's also a lot of recovery frames for the character. So if someone jumps on you and you're doing a fireball, like, you're done. Basically, you're gonna get punished super hard. So if you want to zone people out, you should kind of be very aware of what exactly is your opponent's attitude towards you zoning. Are they gonna jump right away? Are they gonna respect it? So in the first round of every fight, you should probably throw a fireball or two and then do nothing and see what exactly are they gonna do. Are they gonna do their own fireball to fight it out in a fireball war? Are they gonna jump on you? Are they gonna drive impact? You need to gather data around it, because Sagat in this game is not like Guile, for example. He doesn't have the best zoning tools, but they're still there. You kind of need to be smart about how to use them and not basically rely on them the whole fight. Also, a quick tip: diversify your anti-airs. You can use level 3 if they're close to the floor while the jump is ending. You can use light DP if they're really close to you or pressing a button. You can use back heavy punch, you can use heavy kick. There is a ton of options to anti-air with this character, and DPs are actually not that reliable. Like, they can whiff if people neutral jump. So you kind of need to learn how to anti-air with multiple different options and not only with light DP, for example. And as you saw on that clip, I use level 3 as an anti-air because it's basically gonna give me the round, and it is in the range of the jump that is closer to the floor, so the kick is gonna hit as an anti-air. So remember that. It's a really useful tip with this character. And then of course we have the other two aspects of his three-way neutral that I mentioned at the start, which I will argue are a little more straightforward than the whole nuance of the fireball war stuff and the DP anti-air situations. And that is the mid-range buttons, because of the Muay Thai connection that he has now that is much more stronger. He has now new kicks and new punches that are much bigger and that are kind of more connected to Muay Thai as a martial art than maybe how he used to work before. So he represents that mid-range monster button much better. And when you are in that position, when you are kind of like close to your opponent but not really, you know, like the start of the mid-range, all of Sagat's buttons are brutal there, because he has forward light kick, which is a low that moves him forward and has a lot of range. He also has crouching heavy punch, which is cancelable into drive rush or special moves. He also has forward heavy kick, which if the other guy is standing, he's actually, you know, going to be plus. Sagat is going to be plus on block if you block that button. And then you also have stunning medium kick and stunning heavy punch that can connect into target combos, and they are really easy to hit confirm, and you get a huge chunk of damage out of them. So dealing with this character in this specific range is a nightmare, and it is one of the most strong things about the character in this game, in SF6. It is a new thing in his iteration as a legacy character, and I think that Capcom did a great work with this, and you need to use it. You need to be aware of how good these normals are, and that in that specific range you should probably not even think of using fireballs, dude. With how good these buttons are, like, just do, you know, crouching heavy punch and drive rush and get the pressure going with the mix-ups, or just do the other option to check people and try to hit confirm a couple of target combos. Like, the options are limitless, and you need to kind of like do a mix in between all the buttons and then be ready to anti-air, because that is kind of the situation in that range in which you are a button monster and are checking people constantly, but they're gonna try to jump on you, so you should be ready to anti-air. And that is very straightforward to understand. It's not really that hard, but you need to get used to the idea that when you are in that range, you should start swinging with those buttons because they are huge and really good. And then the last section of Sagat's three-way neutral that I've been talking about is neutral skipping, of course, and it is very straightforward. Like Sagat's Tiger Knee, the three different versions are almost like similar to Terry's Var Knuckle, like they are plus on block depending on the spacing. They can also work kind of like anti-airs because of all the vertical range that the jump of Tiger Knee has depending on the version that you use. So it is really strong. It is actually not that easy to punish unless you are super minus, like right on top of your opponent, because you miss space really hard with the version of Tiger Knee that you used, or you completely whiffed it. So at the end of the day, it is a very good tool to use, but you need to be aware of how to use it, just like the fireballs and just like the anti-airs and all of that. Like one thing that identifies Sagat in SF6 to me is the fact that he's not an autopilot character. He has so many options and such a versatile way of playing the game that you need to be very conscious about what decisions and tools you use depending on the situation. So you can use Tiger Knee to neutral skip, but you need to take that decision consciously. You cannot just Tiger Knee, you know, the whole round and then basically get punished with a 50% combo because you whiff over and over those sort of specific moves. So yes, you can neutral skip with Tiger Knee, but be conscious about how you do it and which version, light, medium or heavy, you use depending on the spacing. And of course you can also use EX because it is plus on block. And if you take all of that advice around Tiger Knee and also use Drive Rush for neutral skipping with the huge buttons that Sagat has, you can literally do a 50-50 mix-up full screen if the enemy is not moving or being immensely passive in the game. So that's kind of like the three ways Sagat neutral, you know, the fireballs and the anti-air DP situations, the mid-range monster buttons with the Muay Thai identity, and then the neutral skip options with Tiger Knees, and also the big buttons after Drive Rush. That's the whole neutral for Sagat, I would argue, and the three-way logic that to me identifies the character in this game. So now let's move into how exactly you pressure people up close and get the plus frames going and overwhelm the enemy in the defense situation. Okay, so when it comes to up close pressure, your first button to use is gonna be standing medium punch. It doesn't have that much range, but it is +2 on block naturally, and it can then basically loop into itself or do another normal to create a sequence of offense into, for example, Tiger Nexus or a low and stuff like that. So it can be really good to start the offense and keep people guessing, because you can do standing medium punch and then crouching medium punch into Tiger Nexus, and then people of course have to guess what is the follow-up that you're gonna use, plus frames, overhead. It is really tricky to deal with that constantly during a match, so it can be a really good tool to use. Then we also have the lows. You have forward light kick and crouching medium kick, and these two lows are very good. They cover a lot of range after Drive Rush, so don't be afraid to use them maybe as kind of like a neutral skip tool. They can be drive impact, but it depends on the timing. Like if the drive impact of the opponent is a little delayed, you can drive impact back, but if they do it right away, of course they're gonna stop your offense with the lows. So be aware of that, but they are still really strong lows, so don't sleep on them either with or without Drive Rush. Then we also have the overhead, which is forward medium punch. It is a really strong overhead, relatively slow, but still not, I would say, reactable necessarily, especially at a low or intermediate level. And it is actually plus on block after Drive Rush, which you're probably gonna use it the most because it's kind of like a tool for Oki setups, right? Like you get a knockdown and then you Drive Rush into overhead if they are always ducking, which is really strong, and you can get a full combo out of it. So pretty good. Then we have forward heavy kick, and this move can be duck. It kind of works like a high on Tekken basically, but if people are standing, it is an absolute monster of a button, one of the best in the game, I would argue, and it is +4 on block without Drive Rush. It also naturally links into crouching medium punch on hit, and it gives you a full combo that you can extend, so it is absolutely brutal as a button. Even if people are only blocking the button, it is insane, because as you're seeing on the screen, if you look at the drive gauge, each time you block forward heavy kick, it takes almost an entire of the 6, you know, basically resource that you have in the gauge. It is really strong. So if I was you, I would use this a ton into people that basically don't want to duck, because if you're standing and you eat this constantly, you're always plus, always making people guess, always getting free frame traps, and always getting some of the drive gauge for free, which is insane. So don't sleep on forward heavy kick. Then we also have only heavy kick, basically, that it is a 2-hit button up close, and it can of course connect into Tiger Nexus. So don't sleep on that button, because it's also going to be used a lot for combos. And finally, of course, we have Tiger Nexus, which are basically Sagat's Jinrai kicks, and they are simple to understand. You shouldn't really like get too overwhelmed by them. All the versions are the same when it comes to the follow-ups and their frames. The only thing that changes if you do light, medium, or heavy as a start, you know, the first thing that you do when you input Tiger Nexus is that it changes the startup of the animation when it comes to frames. It makes it slower or faster, but the follow-ups are the same. So if you do forward light kick, you're gonna get the overhead and it's always gonna be -5 on block. Then if you do forward medium kick, you're gonna get the high that is duckable, but it's very +4 on block, so really good button if people are trying to always block the overhead. And then the forward heavy kick version is basically also plus, not as much as the medium one, but it can be interrupted by jabs if I'm not mistaken. So that's how you need to understand the move. You shouldn't really stress too much about it, just understand how the frames work on the follow-ups and use the light, medium, or heavy startup of the move depending on what you're doing. If you're doing a block stream, for example, you should probably just use the light version over the medium one to basically keep on top of them, and you should only use the heavy one sometimes in combos because it launches. That's kind of like the only thing that you should understand about this move. And well, now that you understand Sagat's neutral, his pressure, and how good all of that can be if you're conscious enough about your decisions, then let's give you a combo guide so that you can play the character and pick him up right away. Of course, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing. It helps the channel a ton so that you don't lose on future guides. And now let's get into the combo guide. Thank you for watching the video.